Hey, what's up, YouTube? It's Richie from Boston. It is the 30th of March, 2020, and I have to jump into a roundtable discussion with Dr. Kaufman and Secrets of Saturn, a bunch of other channels, a bunch of other mainstream reporters, etc. I don't know. So I'm going to try to make this quick. But here's Dr. Fauci talking to this talking head today. Dr. Fauci explains the new coronavirus timeline. So pay attention to this.
Let's bring in a man now who's become familiar.
Remember, they're touting Dr. Fauci as America's top expert on infectious diseases. Remember that, okay? Now remember that. And remember, a couple of other things. Since this whole thing broke out, my channel's demonetized anyways. I'm not selling anything because money's not going to matter after this entire thing crashes. So anybody that's still trying to sell you things, or asking for PayPal or Patreon or anything else, you may really want to understand what their motives are. Do you see what I'm saying? Just remember that. But this is America's top physician right here. Let's listen to what he has to say today.
America's top expert on infectious disease, Dr. Anthony Fauci. Dr. Fauci, thank you for your time this morning and for your tireless service over these last several weeks and years. As we heard from the president all last week, he was hoping that we could reopen the country by Easter, but of course, we saw that extension of the guidelines yesterday. Take us inside that decision. What convinced the president was necessary? What convinced you?
Well, it was clear, George, that the dynamics of the outbreak, what was going on in cities like New York City and Westchester and New Orleans and others, was clearly still on an uptick. And to pull back the mitigation methods before you reached the peak and turned the corner, I think really would have been imprudent, because that would have merely regenerated the spike to go up. So we had some intensive conversations with him, and we convinced him. He listened, and we said the better part of valor would be to extend them until the end of April, when we think it would peak and start coming down. I mean, these are all projections, but the thing we were pretty sure of is that if we prematurely did it, it would likely rebound, and that's one thing you did not want to happen.
You talk about the peak at the end of April. The president seemed to say yesterday that the models estimate the peak death rate in 2 weeks. So which is it? Is it 2 weeks from now or the end of April?
Well, what he was saying, that the number of deaths would probably peak by a certain point, but you still get a number of cases that go up, which will ultimately lead to less death rates because the cases anticipate the death rates. What he was saying, that we had such a surge earlier that within 2 weeks you're going to have a peak in the death rates. The death rates start coming down, but you have another curve, which is actually the new infections. So,
okay, so did you just hear him saying a bunch of nonsense bullshit? Now, see this? This is Dr. Fauci right here. See him? That's today. Today, he's telling people we need to be locked in until the end of April. Dr. Fauci, see him? There he is. Now, this is the article I showed you yesterday in the New England Journal of Medicine. This is where doctors talk to each other. This is doctors' forums right here. This isn't the Daily Mail telling you that people are locked in Cheyenne Mountain. This is the New England Journal of Medicine. This is Dr. Fauci, the same guy. See him? He wrote this article on the 26th, which was 4 days ago. Dr. Fauci said 4 days ago in an official medical peer-reviewed type magazine that this suggests the overall clinical consequences of COVID-19 may ultimately be more akin to those of a severe seasonal flu, which has a fatality rate of approximately 0.1%, or a pandemic influenza, rather than a disease similar to SARS or MERS, which has a fatality case of 9, 10, 36% respectively. 9, 10, 36%. So the doctor has written for all other doctors of the world to read in the New England Journal of Medicine that this thing is nothing more than a seasonal flu. That's what I've been telling you. And again, it wasn't me telling you. I was repeating what medical professionals were telling me about COVID. They all said it's just no big deal. So this is what the doctor wrote 4 days ago. And this is what the doctor's saying now. And he's saying it in very complicated, diluted terms that don't really make any sense. Do you see what's going on here? Say one thing and do another. This is all to stall the stupid Americans that are locked in their houses watching their televisions. Do you understand this yet? Do you get this yet? This is absolutely unbelievably ridiculous. And people are still doing as they're told. We still have the president coming on saying Americans are so brave for sacrificing and blah, 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 blah. It's total, complete bullshit. This doctor is telling you 4 days ago what I've been repeating to you all along. This isn't real. So if none of this is real, what's really going on? Think about that. Or don't. But as far as Q goes, because a lot of people are still wrapping themselves in the flag of Q and saying Alex Jones was never for Q, Adam Green at No More News put this up, and I'm going to play a little bit of it so you can listen to Alex Jones not only tell you that he knows who Q is, and Q, I'll tell you what, if Q were anything, Q is trying to tell people secretly that they're taking over and getting rid of all these people. The people they're getting rid of actually own the internet. Don't you think they would have taken him down by now? Alex Jones is a piece of shit. I can't explain that enough. But if you can't hear me say it, why don't you listen to him say it? And I'll leave links, as I've left links to everything I've talked about throughout this entire time, unlike so many others who are just saying things and not backing it up. All the links are pinned below.
And I was separately told this by QAnon. I'm going to say again, I've talked to QAnon.
100%. I think that was a joke when he said he was dead serious about it. Yeah, listen, that was not a joke. And that's the other thing. We've been attacked by Q. Listen, I'm not... Do you think I believe in Q? Do you think... Hold on. Do you think that every video I've done regarding Q debunking is Q? Not only debunking it, telling people not to believe in imaginary message boards. All right.
Well, Alex is on the board of Q. Yeah, I guarantee he's making a joke when he says that.
No, that he didn't. It was during a rant talking about Trump, and then he said, "I talked to Q." Okay. I don't think it was a joke, man. It was not in a joke context. Okay. All right.
QAnon is totally real. QAnon is totally real, as Zach and our Cape Canaveral sources and Space Command sources have pointed out, and people make jokes about that, but that's the 18th agency. You're here. This is big. We'll be right back on the other side with our real QAnon. Stay with us. QAnon. I know you know QAnon's identity, but yes, obviously we're not going to. And I've confirmed as well. QAnon is a group in the Pentagon,
and very close to Donald Trump, military intelligence, specifically Army intelligence, I believe. And I've affirmed, working with the people who run the monitored 8chan, QAnon has been using the same trip code, the same IP addresses for his devices. It's the same Q from the very beginning. And when we were decoding him, it was so bizarre. We were decoding
But
Q.
See, you're playing coy here. You know QAnon, so do we. Let's just leave it at that. The point is that Zach is part of the same group, but he's with NASA, and that is the beginning. And QAnon said that 2 weeks ago, and we know who QAnon is, and we play coy about that, but it's Army intelligence and some groups in Florida and others.
Real quick, I was listening to Dr. Corsi last night and about all the stuff on 8chan and how releasing, is that kind of like the ace in the hole?
I've been told by 5 different Pentagon sources, high level, that whole 8chan thing is real, and that they're basically forecasting what they'd like to see happen and giving you information. But so that's definitely real, and that's why Corsi's been, I'll let you know because the enemy knows, the White House directly asked Corsi to be on the 8chan beat a month ago. So, that's directly from the White House.
Dr. Corsi is so smart. And then one other thing,
but what does that say about QAnon? Whether it's, we're being told by the White House, please cover this. So what does that tell you?
QAnon started right as I was finishing the book. He started posting. And so that the lunch was to recruit me to get me interested in following this, that this was a real phenomenon, that this was the first time this level of this level of intelligence had been shared with the public, and that the format was, the 8chan was exactly kind of the deep, way to share it with the Anons that had been chosen by Trump as the way this message was going to get out. And they wanted me to get involved in it. And that's when I did the first decodes. As soon as I started looking at them, and realizing what Q was saying, and I did a couple of decodes, then I understood what was going on.
I know folks that are part of Delta Force, and I know people that are part of covert action in the Defense Department and the CIA. And quite frankly, they've given me authorization to talk about this. I have never been in the CIA. I've never been part of covert operations, but I was basically contacted by groups inside the Special Forces operations in Florida, inside breakaway groups inside the Central Intelligence Agency, and groups basically behind American industry that wanted to defeat the globalists and they're planning to bankrupt America. And so they told me that they were advising Trump on the globalist takeover and that they understood from their demographics and their studies that we actually had conservatively 15 million people a week visiting Infowars.com and tens of millions watching our videos, and that they had briefed the president, or then candidate Trump, and that they wanted to attempt a counter coup against the globalists.
But this is what got Donald Trump to say, I got to be on this guy's show?
Donald Trump was advised by the Special Forces Command out of Florida. They said
to go on your program.
I mean, that's who actually. Let's just say it, the enemy already knows all this. Let me just say this: so everybody listening knows I'm telling the truth. Special Operations Command in Florida, the Delta Force, Army, Black Ops. It's Army's the oldest thing in America. It's before the Constitution, anything. They said, sir, you need to go with Alex Jones. And you need to rally the troops, and they briefed him. They showed him the documents, and they said, "We need you to run." And the Delta Force basically asked Trump. Delta Force, founded by General Boykin and Schumacher and people like Steve Pachenik, Dr. Steve Pachenik of Psychological Operations of the CIA.
And remember, this is the same Alex Jones that got everybody to try to follow Steve Pachenik. This guy is a CIA operator who showed up on YouTube, and so many people ate it, hook, line, and sinker. They're telling you one thing on the mainstream, but they're telling their colleagues in professional magazines, so for when this is all said and done and they return to their normal lives, this is the New England Journal of Medicine. Literally the same guy sitting right here telling you need to be locked in for 30 more days is telling you it's nothing more than a seasonal flu. His words and mine. It has a fatality rate of approximately 0.1%. COVID may ultimately be more akin to those of a severe seasonal flu influenza with a fatality rate of approximately 0.1%. Well, Richie, it's because they're arresting. Listen, wake up, people. They don't have to shut down the entire world and tell everyone to get into their houses and stay there to arrest people. They could have done it all without anyone even knowing what was going on. We do have that technology. Sorry to break it to you. Richie from Boston. All the links will be below. I am out.